Hi, it's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and today I'm going to do a little bit of experimenting. I got out my pan pastels, haven't used these in quite a while, and I saw a video where people were making backgrounds on watercolor cardstock with the pan pastels and then doing sort of a resist technique with a Versamark or an embossing ink pad and a rubber stamp. So I thought I'd give that a try today and see what happens. Thinking about this being potential for for a art journal layout. So I'm just going to go in here with my makeup sponge. I've got stuff already on this card from I don't know where. It must be some more of the pan pastels. Now the watercolor cardstock that I'm using is Tim Holtz's watercolor cardstock. Okay, now I have this rubber stamp, so it's sort of like circles that are distressed, and I have my Versamark ink pad. So I hope this is still juicy enough. I'm going to give it a fair amount of force and hold it here for a couple of seconds. There's some on there. It's difficult to see. And I'm just trying to hold it up to the light to see how much I have on here. I don't know if I have enough. But I'm going to use another color and just, oh yeah, that worked. So it is a resist technique, but you can see. And so lots of potential here for using this as a background in an art journal page. The only thing is you have to seal it because this stuff never dries. So you can seal it with anything like a spray fixative, hairspray, whatever. That's after you've used, you've put your other layers and things on top. Now, I'm wondering how this would work if we did it through a stencil. So let's get another piece of cardstock here. And let's grab a stencil. And I'm not going to be too particular. I've just got out my Tim Holtz stencils here. And I'm just going to take the first one that's on the top, which happens to be this one. And now, a couple of ways I could do this. I could put down a layer first of the pan pastel, and then put this on top, and dab with the sponge, my Versamark, and see. Well, let's try it that way. Okay, let's put down actually I have other sponges that would probably work better than what I'm using right now. But for the sake of we're just experimenting, I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so let's take our stencil and we'll just do it on part way. Move these up a little bit better so you can see. And I'm going to get a clean makeup sponge, and I'm just going to try to dab it through the stencil. Now this will remove some of that pan pastel, as you can see. Trying to get a good amount on here. Oh, I've moved my paper and my stencil a little bit, but okay, that's not too bad. Okay, I can see it, It is there. So let's take another color. Let's take something. Let's just take a yellow. And yep. Now one thing, you don't even have to add color. You can just take off some of the color that's already there. But actually I like to use the other color. As I said, I would think another sponge would be better. They do have those applicators that you can use with the pan pastels on little sticks. I've got some of those somewhere, but I'm just too lazy to dig them out. Okay, so that's kind of a neat effect right there. Let's try stamping again. And let's take another color. Or as I said before, you don't even need the color. You can just go over it with the sponge and the resist will come up. So yeah, I think there's lots of potential here for this kind of thing. Now, there's another technique, and this is one I wrote down, I haven't tried yet. You're going to use StazOn ink this time, and the Oxide inks. So, we're not using the pan pastels for this one. Let's get those out of our way. And we're not using that. The sponges we can throw out. And move these things out of our way. So there's our two cards there. Let's give this a wipe up. Clean up a little bit here. Okay, so let's grab another piece of cardstock. Here we go. And we need some StazOn ink. Okay, let me grab some StazOn. Now, in the technique that I saw, they kind of did a bit of a gradient. Let's get some colors out here. That's black. I'll just try those ones. See what happens. Now, I'm going to get an ink applicator. So this isn't really going on very well. Maybe I just go direct and pat. Yeah, actually this is probably better. Now StazOn is a solvent ink, so it's definitely waterproof. Okay, I have a layer of that down. Now, the next thing I saw them do was they applied a layer of Oxide inks. So let's get some Oxide inks. Now, should I use one color, two colors? How about, I'll go for a darker color. Wilted Violet. And let's see, I need it. And this is my applicator. Now you could do this in several different colors. I'm just using the one color. And then we get out our water, put a lid on that, and spritz. And dab. Just letting that water sit in there for a second. Well, get out the heat gun. Well, that's not really that impressive. But it may also be that this watercolor paper is very rough on the one side. Just trying to lay down here. The other side's smoother. So maybe what I'll do is to try this again. But this time, I'm doing the smooth side. And actually, to give it some variety, instead of just wiping stays on cross and bands, I'm just going to kind of overlap. Now the reason for putting the stays on first is because the oxide inks are water reactive. So if I want to keep that background, I need something that isn't water reactive. Okay, should I stick with this? Instead of putting it all over, I'm just going to lightly go in one area. Okay, now we'll try the water. And maybe we'll try the water not just as a mist, but as droplets. So okay, as it dries, I am getting some water marking showing up where the water hit the oxide ink. So you can see the watermarks that are here, but I think I'm going to grab let's grab Salty Ocean. Let's grab an applicator. If I can find an applicator, should be one here. There it is. So I've got my applicator, and this is a new foam on this one, so I want to get it quite juicy. And let's go. So I'm just putting it up on the top corners. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get some water in my hand. Now this is a Tim Holtz sprayer, so it's supposed to be able to push the button and you get little, yeah, you do sort of. Okay, let's try it. So I did. I got a little bit of the watermarking on here. So I suppose you could just carry on building more and more layers. Should we go with one more? Maybe grab a, how about the Twisted Citron? Need the applicator? So I'm getting sort of a mottled look with some staining. So I think you'd have to play around with this until you got it the way you want it. I wasn't being very careful about my color selection here. I was just trying the technique to see what would happen. But I think it does have some potential. And you could do this on ordinary cardstock as well. And because you're using StazOn on the bottom, it doesn't move. So that layer will always stay the same. Any layers with Oxide on it, every time they get wet, those are going to be a little different. So that's that side. That's the smooth side. That was the rough side. Smooth side worked better on. But you can see the, the mottled effect, the staining, the water marking. So that's not bad. So that's two techniques then. First technique was the one we used, the Pan Pastels, an Versamark ink pad or an embossing ink pad to create sort of a resist both through a stencil and with the rubber stamp. And then with this we used the StazOn ink in the background, Oxide on top, made the Oxide react with the water, dried it. So a couple of potential background ideas that you could use in your art journaling or scrapbooking or card making. This would make a neat card front. Okay, so that's it for this video, and we'll see you for the next one.